Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, we're gonna take a look at this Node 3 setup by Danyl Bekoucha. Basically, this is for Blender Cycles shader nodes, and this node actually allows you to create and generate this kind of like a stone-like, like a dirty material shader, and if you go to the museum and then look at some of the sculpture and statues, normally it's gonna look something similar to this. This one is a bit stylized, but it looks really nice. It's got this kind of dirtiness. It's got this kind of not quite a marble, maybe like a more like a stone look, but this will give you that look. So the way you basically need to download the material, the shader, and then once you download it, you just extract it and you get these two files, how to use and TextureGen. I got it somewhere here, file in Finder, go to downloads, TextureGen. This is how to use it. So there's a bunch of parameters that you can tweak. Yeah, you can actually bake the result as well. I think it's really nice, dirty texture generator, and I will be using two Blender today, version Blender 2.79 and Blender 2.8, just to give you to show you the difference. I'll open the latest 2.79 with Python 3.7. Doesn't matter. Basically, the material, the way it works, you need a like super high res model. I will just be using Suzanne, subdivided it many times, and gonna save it as TextureGen EV. I'm gonna save this using the old versions and then gonna switch to EV. So I just subdivided it further. I'll switch to compositing and then switch to the Blender Cycles. So I'll be using Cycles render engine and switch to material. So this is the default material, right? I will append the material from the blend, from the TextureGen blend. You dig inside the folder and find this base texture. Just append it. Now you can find that material over here. Just simply assign it into this mesh. You can do a quick render, and it looks just like if you are using like a dirty vertex, but you have a lot more control. So the curve control this dirtiness, and it's currently piped into the emission, so you're not getting any kind of other shadow. You can also, I think, use the principles. If you plug it into principle, you can then add your own light. Hey, in this latest Blender 2.79, you have lighting sets, or maybe this is from the advanced object. Okay, that's not bad. Go into the outliner. Okay, it's not using nodes, but it's not bad. This is from the Blender add-on, of course. Yeah, not too bad. Anyway, let's switch back to what we are doing. Select Suzanne, and this is principal BSDF. Like I said, you can pipe this texture generator color into the principal, but for now, just focusing on the emission. Okay, back to where we began. You can change the base color. So let's try blue highlight, something different color. See, you can see it looks really nice already, especially on Suzanne. it looks like a lot of detail. You can add SSS, subsurface scattering, give it some color. So I'm using 3 different color, kind of more like a blue kind of hue. It looks really nice like this. And then there's this dust intensity. It seems to be with a high dust value. It looks kind of more desaturated. Oh, there's a dust color as well. Okay, dust color. Play around with it. It's kind of really just a really cool nose that if you want to dig down, you hit tab and then look at the setup. For now, don't worry. Ambient occlusion 0, 1. This looks pretty nice. Vertical gradient. So this one adds darkness at the bottom. So normally if you're doing like a stylized shading, I think we tend to get lighting from the top. So we have this a bit darker at the bottom, and top lighting. Okay, this give you that kind of contrast. I think it's really nice. Front, it's almost like a 3-point lighting in a way. I wonder what's gonna happen if I rotate it. Okay, still it keeps that orientations. All right, so it doesn't have kind of light. It doesn't change when you rotate the mesh. Curvature, maybe this is the curvature control. Sometimes you want to add more. If you want to have more contrast, this is normally what you do. Kind of like give it like a S curve. Okay, not too bad. Vertical saturation, dodge and burn. More contrast. You can go a little bit crazy by giving it like inverted color, like in all the opposite, and you get this really nice result. Very cool. Of course, this is using Blender 2.79, right? We are transitioning to Blender 2.8. I'm gonna save this, and this material will work on Blender 2.8. So that's really cool. I'm using the latest 2.8. You will see very quickly the interface has been revamped. Okay, once again, splash screen 2.8. This is the version I'm using. You can see this panel, the property panel now has the tab on the left. Okay, that's new. I'm still getting used to it, but I think it's you can right click and you flip it to the right. Normally it's on the top and bottom. This is still pretty new for a lot of Blender artists, including me. Yep. Properties. This is a property panel. Okay, don't change it to others. Property, and this is all the property for the objects. Anyhow, let's go back to what we are doing. TextureGen for Eevee. Okay, now we are really in Blender 2.8. I call it Blender Eevee, but basically the render setting needs to be cycles, but can be Eevee. Maybe it's not gonna work on Eevee, but it's gonna work as cycles. We can render. Yep, we are back. Turn off the overlay. Cool. It's actually a lot faster on Blender 2.8. That's the emission. This is what we have before, the curve with high contrast. It's definitely faster. And the principle, let's use the principle. See, it works on principle, and you can add reflections, roughness. Nice, really nice. Let's try a different color. Highlight maybe with orange and SSS. SSS can be actually in the opposite of the color wheel. Dust color, okay, dust color. Yeah. So like I said, you can actually bake these to the vertices, or you bake it as a texture. So it's definitely transferable, and it's especially working really nice on a scan. So let me quickly open a scan. Trivial band, where's my scan? A scan mask. Yes, scan mask, but I will need to transfer the shader. So I think I need to select Suzanne. So I'm selecting Suzanne. I'm gonna copy it. Open my scan. So this is, I have a scan here. This is rendered using EEV. I wonder if I can just copy and paste. Let's get rid of this mask. Oops. Delete. Okay. Got my face scan. I get Suzanne. Select my face scan and change the material. Base texture. Okay. Seems to be working. File, save as. This is my selfie 3D scan. It's pretty weird. I'm holding my iPhone 10 using my left hand and then scan my pose. And I will be using another thing. I'm gonna import a DAE. Okay, I'll be using Blender 2.8. Gonna delete everything. Let's try this. Import DAE Collada. And I believe I have this face. This is also captured using the iPhone 10. Drag and drop it here. Cannot see the display. Just load the first one. I think I can just delete all this. Maybe this one has a texture already. Copy. Paste. It's got this chrome look. I don't know why. Maybe because of the nodes. Let's switch to the... So okay, if you're new to Blender, top right corner, you can drag it down. And then you switch to the nodes. We currently have new one like shader editor, and there's also texture node editor. That's new. Go to shader, material, base texture. I'm just gonna be using base texture maybe, and can assign this, assign different color. So this is actually a mask. I can assign it to my own face. I actually have the texture that I painted myself. This one, I quite proud of it. It's actually based on the traditional. This one is based on the Japanese face mask. Alright, so this one is based on this. Kind of want to make it more dirty, or maybe more ambient occlusion. Seems to be working slightly differently from previous Blender. I don't see much of dirtiness. If I save this and reopen it on the other Blender, maybe you can see the difference. So reopen older Blender, This seems to have some kind of compatibility with a new Blender. So TextureGen. Okay, expect of loss of data. Okay, doesn't work. But anyhow, yeah, this is a very cool add-on. Thanks again for Daniel to give us this Node 3 setup. Have a look. He got a lot of interesting things, including this compositing nodes. Very cool. I really like this one a lot. So try this yourself and play around with also with the new Blender. Get used to both old Blender and new one. They're both working really well. Yeah. Okay, it works better as a principle. So that's the other one. Well, anyhow, hopefully you find this useful. Just showing you how to use material shader setup from another blend and then use it on Blender 2.79 and 2.8. Maybe this should be like BSLIVE. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.